Hey folks, it's Sam, and I'm here today talking about the full moon in Virgo. That's going to be happening on the 17th in Uttara Phalguni Nakshatra. Also, we have the shifting of the lunar nodes that's happening. Rahu is going into Aries and Ketu is going into Libra on the 16th, which is tomorrow, as I'm recording this on the 15th. So there's a lot of big shifts that are happening right now. As you say, as you see there, scrolling on the bottom, there's there's an opportunity to go to a web class, excuse me, free web class on the nodes in this nodal shift. It's a free web class where you can go. If you haven't done that yet, actually many of you have. There's already been close to 1,000 who have gone to the class, and this is the manual where I am teaching, and you can see I go over some very intense and deep shifts that have happened in this Rahu, Aries, Ketu, Libra axis before. First, I start with an overview of what the lunar nodes are, what Aries and Libra are, and how you can see these things lining up, Rahu and Aries, Ketu and Libra. Then I go over the last time of this transit and some very important shifts, including things that really show a lot of the political issues that we're dealing with now, like the largest expansion of NATO that ever happened, the largest expansion of the EU that ever happened, even a thing called the Orange Revolution that happened in 2004 in Ukraine. So again, you can see the extreme relevance of this nodal shift, even the last time it happened. And I talk about these things. Again, this is a free web class. Then I talk about it for all 12 signs, including yours. You also get a chance. By the way, this nodes mini course is for only $4.97. I actually wrote the price wrong. But again, this is all part of that free web class, and you could just click that link there. It's actually also just nodalshift2022.com. So again, this is part of this larger class I'm going to be talking about today, about this full moon in Virgo. This is also happening, as you see here in the sky right now. As I'm recording this today, the moon is here on here in Leo. If we go forward, this would be the 17th late at night. So I do these things regularly, all the time. I do these updates, so I want to make sure to let you know to like and subscribe and share the video with others. Ring the bell up there also to get notified if you're watching this on YouTube or wherever you're watching it. Also, like, share, and subscribe on Facebook and Twitter, other places. Leave a comment to let me know, especially, if you like the video and you're watching this, leave a nice comment. Many times people just leave comments when they want to argue with me and give me a hard time, which that's fine too if you want to do it, but you got to be respectful. You can't just come up and start calling me names or I'm going to delete your comments. Amber Lynn Adams said, very much enjoyed the class. Thank you. So Amber Lynn came to that, to this web class here. Again, when you go to that link that I put, you'll go here. You just click register now. It's free. It's more than an hour and it's at great depth. You'll learn an enormous amount about the whole subject. First, you'll learn the story of Rahu and Ketu, how they came about. Great contrast in energy and style of how they got their energy, their energetic response to be forward looking and backward looking, be interested in the soul's evolution. And so all of those lessons, because we all have Rahu and Ketu in our chart anyway, then you're going to see how Aries will influence Rahu, how Ketu will influence Libra. Then we're going to show how this happened the last time around, where we saw and especially in these mundane events. In fact, that's when Facebook was started. You see Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook at that time. The EU expands, NATO expands. We had this Orange Revolution, very much a spirit of revolution right now with Rahu in Aries and Ketu in Libra. So I talk about that, and then I get to talking about each of the 12 signs. So again, I really encourage people to do that, and also, again, like and subscribe to the channel. So with all that being said, let's get into this full moon that's happening in Virgo right now. And you see with this first card, it says, this is a quote by Einstein. It was just Einstein's birthday a couple days ago. You can see it says, I think 99 times and I find nothing. I stop thinking, swim in silence, and the truth comes to me. That's what Einstein said. And Einstein, well, we're going to look at his chart in a second, but again, this is Albert Einstein. He said, I think 99 times and I find nothing. I stop thinking, swim in silence, and the truth comes to me. So again, Albert Einstein actually has a sun in Pisces. This is his chart. You see, when he was born, his natal sun was in Pisces, 120 Pisces. He was born March 14th, 1875. So that was just a couple days ago. Actually, it was just yesterday. Sorry. I was looking at the 1 degree, 20 minutes, and I was comparing it with today. And you can see, based on precession of the equinoxes, it's moved 2 degrees. By the way, this is, oh, no, I'm sorry. This is 317. Sorry. No, see, it's like at exactly the same place, 1:30. So on the 14th, it was 1:20 here. Oh yeah, at that time. So anyway, sorry. I was just doing this thing where in the tropical zodiac things move, in the sidereal zodiac they're at the same. So anyway, but we have this 120 of Pisces is where the sun was when he was born, and he also has this debilitated Mercury, Saturn, and Venus. This is a classical example of classical Raja Yogas with a very powerful being here, with all these what are called Raja Yogas in the first house. I'm sorry, in the 10th house of his work and his career. So he had all this Pisces energy. And so the reason I'm bringing that up on a full moon in Virgo is because we can never forget where the sun is on a full moon. The sun is opposite. So the sun is really anchoring the whole cycle. That's why, again, I think 99 times and find nothing. I stop thinking, swim in silence, and the truth comes to me. So this is really a sort of case study in this this opposition that we see when we have the full moons and new moons, for example, because the full moon here is in Virgo, which is about thinking, the intellect, intelligence, ultimately what we might call the truth. It could easily be said as the truth. Certainly the accurate and correct information. Einstein, of course, developed these formulas to harness the truth into a formulaic structure that we can all benefit from. That's very much Virgo energy. Even though, again, when you look at his chart, by the way, there is no, he has Rahu Mars in Earth signs. But other than that, he doesn't have any planets in Virgo, but he's got a lot of Earth in his chart. And that Earth element is very much about grounding that mystical, metaphysical wisdom in something very practical. And so with this full moon here that we have in Virgo, in Uttara Phalguni nakshatra, it's opposite the sun in Uttara Bhadrapada. And this is a very interesting section of the zodiac here, where you have the Uttara Bhadras and Uttara Phalguni and Uttara Bhadrapada. It's not just because they are the Uttaras, but because they're actually symbolized, they have common symbols. And the symbols are a bed, the front and the back legs of a bed. And for example, the front legs of the bed of Uttara Bhadra, the front legs of the bed are Purva Bhadra, which is where Jupiter is, and the back legs are Uttara Bhadra. And in the other side, again, the front legs of the bed are Purva Phalguni, and the back legs of the bed are Uttara Phalguni. but they're very different beds. The bed over here in Leo of Uttara Phalguni is a bed where you go make love, make babies, and live life on Earth. It's in this section of the zodiac where you have Leo, Virgo, Libra, and Scorpio. These are fixed signs here. This is very much the fixed section of the zodiac where we're living our life on Earth in a very fixed and stable form. Leo, again, is like our kingdom. Virgo is where we organize that kingdom and live very intelligently. Then Libra is where we want to share that with others. And then Scorpio is where we now realize, even sharing it with others, I'm not going to survive. I have to know myself in a way that transcends just this life on Earth. And then we get to this section of the zodiac where we're transcending. And these are the signs ruled by Jupiter and Saturn. And this last sign, Pisces, is where Aquarius becomes Pisces. And this last two, this Purva Bhadra and Uttara Bhadrapada, are symbolized by the deathbed. Not the bed that we're laying on enjoying ourselves with someone else. Purva Phalguni is it can be very lustful nakshatra, section of Leo where we're hot with a lot of desire. It's said to be the nakshatra of courtship and romance, Purva Phalguni, and then Uttara Phalguni, this nakshatra of the full moon, is the nakshatra of marriage and contracts and agreements. So again, that's going to be a very important lesson in this on this full moon and for the next couple of weeks after. But Uttara Bhadrapada and Purva Bhadrapada is a different bed. That's the deathbed. You're still on the bed, but now you've lived the life and you're supposed to be transcending it, and now you're on your deathbed sort of thing, where you've lived your life here on Earth, and now you're needing to transcend and move into the other world, which is this section of the zodiac. And so this section of the sky, Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Bhadrapada, show that deathbed transcendence there, right? And it's where we have the that need to let go, that need to surrender. And even as Einstein says, swim in silence and the truth comes to me, right? So think about that, swimming in silence. Actually, both Pisces and Virgo have a lot of that silent quality because they're both feminine, internal, emotional, psychological, reflective energies. Pisces, very much the language of the heart, where we, again, swim in that ocean of consciousness, which is beyond all of the details and the material qualities of the world. And Virgo is where we then bring those qualities into life itself, into existence, where instead of just having this sort of dreamlike cosmic experience, we can bring it into tangible form. And the nakshatra of Uttara Phalguni is that part of Virgo that is very much about, I already said, like contracts and official activities, where we take the power of Leo and turn it into a tangible form. Now that can mean things like, bureaucracies and other kinds of things like that we need to deal with. And this is why the sign of Virgo often has a strong connection to things like, bureaucracies, even things like accounting and organizing things, organizing all that power and all those details. It also, comes back to things like even sort of in a more mundane sense, like cleaning your house, or again, arranging things and putting things in the most intelligent structure. And this might be something that you're really been thinking and looking at and noticing lately, because again, the sun has been over here, and the last couple months, it went through Capricorn, where it was with Saturn pushed down, because Saturn, this side of the zodiac over here, Saturn ruled signs. The sun is less powerful. Again, it's the winter time, it's cold, and especially since the sun was joined Saturn, then he goes through Saturn's sign again. It was joined Jupiter, so we got some of that inspiration, but now he's getting closer to this side of the zodiac where the sun has more power, right? And so this whole quality of being in a sort of in a sort of darkened state has been something that we've all maybe been kind of feeling and sort of noticing, and maybe now feeling this pressure and this stress and this, maybe sort of a little bit of a sense of worry about organizing things in a more intelligent way. So rather than, just sort of getting through it and trying to survive a little bit, which is what happens when the sun goes through Capricorn and Aquarius, it's more about now swimming in those deep cosmic waters, pondering and connecting to something transcendent, and also organizing those ideas and whatnot into an intelligent structure, so that we're building that life of joy and beauty and harnessing that power that we have, because that's really what Leo is about, the sign before Virgo, and we should look at the zodiac as a continuum. It's not just one box disconnected from all the others. The zodiac is a holistic mandala. The sky, there are no lines in the sky. Everything flows into the next thing. And so even when you look at the nakshatras that are in Leo, Magha, first one, which is where we thank our ancestors for the power we have, for the power of being born. Again, you're very much a king or a queen of your kingdom. Maybe it's not a powerful kingdom, or you don't feel that way. It doesn't mean it's not true. And the most obvious kingdom that you have is that you're still in a physical body. And the gates to the kingdom are the senses. This is a deep yogic principle. They even talk about it's like 12 gates to the kingdom or something like that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Is it 7? And then there are other ones too. They talk about all the openings in the body. Of course, you have an opening in your rear end. You have other openings, but those are said to be the openings into the kingdom. But just in your head, you have 7 openings, and they're like your eyes. Things go in through your eyes, through your ears, through your nose, through your mouth, then the skin. So anyway, but this is the power. First, the first power of your kingdom, or powers of your kingdom, are through those indriyas, which are called the jnana indriyas, the organs of knowledge. And then the karma indriyas, the organs of action, give you the power to then act upon those things, right? So again, this is very much about Leo and the power you have. The first nakshatra of Magha is that power and the ancestry, not just the family that raised you, but your divine lineage. And then Purva Phalguni, it also is very related to those senses and how you might just be living your life to enjoy those senses, to just enjoy the senses as objects of pleasure, which can lead to being lazy and other kinds of things. Or they can be great powers where you share and you're generous with that kingdom. But then again, that leads, then all of that potential then leads to all of these details and all of these tasks in Virgo, where we don't want to waste the power we have. So, that's why a good king also needs a good cabinet. It needs good bureaucracy. Is smart enough to delegate tasks and get everything organized in the right way so that the kingdom runs well. And so this moon in Virgo is going to bring up a lot of that now. So you might be feeling that, you might be really noticing how you haven't been so, like you might say, disciplined, or more, discipline is more of a Mars thing, but more organized is the best way to look at it. And that, that sort of lack of organization, you might say, is feeling, stressful, and, you're feeling that, that way. And so, but it's in contrast, it's feeling organized, in contrast to the Pisces, what can feel disorganized, but it's actually cosmic and metaphysical. So again, you can see in this section of the zodiac that we have this, the sun moves through Sagittarius, which is ruled by Jupiter and inspiring, inspirational, then goes to Capricorn, which is more about hard work, duty. You've been hearing me talk about these things the last several months, or you haven't, but those who don't just tune in every now and then have heard me talk about these things. Then it moved from the duty and effort of Capricorn to the sharing and universal nature of Aquarius, where we're a citizen of the world. Then it moves into Pisces, where we now then leave the world, where we realize that we're not just a citizen of culture of the world and a citizen of some government or some country or some spiritual community, but we're beyond that. We're a transcendent being beyond that. And that is where the sun is right now. So again, in many ways, the reason I keep going back and forth here is because the sun, in many ways, has us kind of, almost in some ways wanting to sort of check out a little bit. But the moon is bringing this awareness of, look, you got to get organized if you want to merge into that higher potentiality. Because this is one of the things that we have with Pisces and with Jupiter energy, is that potentiality, that potential to transcend. And Pisces is really about that liberation. And that liberation is our deeper nature. It's our highest calling, is to want to be in that state of liberation, where we're not burdened by the pressures of the world, the problems of the world, the pains of the world, seeing our brothers and sisters torn apart by war and injustice. It's very painful. It's very hard. We want to just escape it all. But we're in this world. We're in this world with karma, with consequences for our actions, ideas. We need to try to figure these things out, but be in the world and doing our best for each other and ourselves, but also not forget our true nature. And again, one of the things is Virgo is where we can lose ourselves in the details of the world, where we can get stuck in the minutia of life. And so you might feel that sort of overwhelm, even, of all the things that need to be planned, all the things that need to be, again, organized. And it might feel a bit overwhelming because another part of you, that sun part of you, just wants to merge with something transcendent that's beyond. And so when you see, when we have, wherever the sun is, it's really activating that axis of the polarity. So this is a great time for your authentic spiritual practices. Again, not things like reading and all of that, but practicing. Because again, this is for the next several weeks. The sun in Pisces, the sun is always where things are getting empowered. The empowering force is the sun. And it'll be there. Again, the sun moves a degree a day, so it'll be another 26, 27 days. And the sun is wanting to connect to that which is transcendent. And the only way to do that is to then organize that structure. Because in the highest sense, Pisces Virgo is in some ways the most transcendent axis in the chart, because Pisces is the sign of liberation. And, liberation sounds so liberating and so feel good, but it's actually loss. One of my big things that I'm always knocking down is this idea that liberation is going to feel so good. And people want their spiritual practices to be something that feels good. Oh, this will feel good. And many times it doesn't. Meditation is hard because it often doesn't feel good, because it's about loss. It's about letting go. It's about losing things that are unreal. And we don't want to lose anything, particularly the unreality that we like. I like the fantasy that I'm going to live forever. I don't want to lose that fantasy. How do I just lose the things I don't like? That's what we're trying to do. And again, this is where the Virgo Pisces axis also gets very hung up, because again, Virgo is aware of all these details. And it's like, well, I want to lose some of the details, but I want to keep the ones that I want. And again, underneath it all, what we're going to lose is everything that's unreal. So your sadness and your unhappiness and your confusion and your pain is because you're holding on to things that are unreal. You can really reduce life's problems to very simple concepts. The most unreal thing, or in fact, the only unreal thing, is you think this separate being is you. That's called avidya. That's the biggest, or in fact, the only mistake. That mistake leads to every other mistake. And when the sun goes through Pisces, it's actually the most obvious, or it's potentially the most obvious, that this thing really isn't me. I'm actually this transcendent being. And Virgo is actually the archetype of all the energy and all the details and all the stress that you put into trying to maintain this false identity. You could just sum up Virgo as that being the problem with Virgo. There's nothing wrong with all the details. There's nothing wrong even with having a body and taking care of it. It's beautiful. We live on a beautiful planet. All that's fine. The problem is that if we come at it from a place of avidya and ignorance, then we can't enjoy it. We can't even enjoy life, because now we're just worried about all the details that we're never going to be able to manage or control. And again, that's the only problem we have. So this Pisces Virgo axis is trying to bring together these, in some ways, the most impossible duality in the zodiac, because Pisces is the impossible bridge we're trying to establish. We're trying to have a foothold in the impossible. At least it's impossible to our ego. Your ego can't conceive of it not being around. And when I say your ego, understand I'm saying you, because you're all ego. You're nothing but ego. Your identity is ego. Everything else is your true nature, but the one that's listening and analyzing and rationalizing and doing all this stuff is ego. And that's like 99.9% of who you are. Cannot conceive of it not being here. And Pisces is the part that says, that realizes, oh yeah, I know rationally that the universe is going to go on fine without me, but I don't want to lose that. I don't want to think about that detail. I don't like that one. So I'm going to hang on to, I'm going to either ignore that one. I'm going to hang on to the good details. And so Virgo, we stress out because we also have to lie to ourselves, get into all this other stuff, all this bad faith and all this stuff. If you want to read some fun stuff, read Sartre. You ever read Jean-Paul Sartre, the French philosopher? He has a book called Nausea, one of the funnest reads ever. His first novel, Le Nausée in French. It's literally called Nausea. It's about his existential crisis and how this existential crisis just was what he would just call nausea. One second. And we go back and look at, oh yeah. And No Exit, another one. Oh, No Exit. One day, you know what's going to happen? One day, I'm going to play the male in Nausea. I mean, in No Exit. I have his parts memorized. I know exactly how to do it. Garcin is his name. I have so many of those lines memorized. What a poisonous woman you are, with an answer for everything. I'm fully aware what's going on, but I'm facing it. I'm facing it. One of the greatest plays ever, called No Exit, or Huis Clos in French. One day I'm going to play him. I'm going to get in that play, and I'm going to nail it. That whole play. Oh, I'm not some young nincompoop, and I don't dance the tango. I'll give you all I have, but it's not much. And I'm not some young nincompoop, and I don't dance the tango. I would kill it, man. I would be the best Garcin ever. Those who know the play would be like, "Oh yeah, okay." You could see me in that role. I would be great. No, I've seen there's like some videos online of people of that play, and I see how they do it, and I'm like, no, you're doing it wrong. That's not how you deliver that line. There's another great Sartre play called Dirty Hands, which is another really good play. There was a book called No Exit and 3 Other Plays. Get that book. That has 3 plays. No Exit, The Dirty Hands. That's another really good play. Sartre was a master of showing how people torment each other. And then the novel Nausea. It's very good. So anyway, I'm glad to see that someone Lalana said, didn't know you were an actor too. I'm not, just in my mind. I also have a comedy routine that I'm going to do one day. It's in my head, the comedy routine. I would have to not let anyone see this because it would be totally the end of my reputation. So it's really bad. The things I find funny. Anyway, let's get back to it. But we're in Pisces, Virgo land, so it's not too far off of what this is, this sense of humor. Oh, you played Inez? Oh, you're the one who gets that line. You played Inez. What a poisonous woman you are, with an answer for everything. Oh, she has some great lines too. I love that part of the play where she starts saying, "Oh, sure, you died too soon. Everybody seems to die at the wrong time, yet everyone dies at the perfect moment," with a line drawn under it, for the summing up. That's when he says, "Ah, what a poisonous woman you are," with an answer for everything. Man, it's a great, great part of the play. That's the part where they really start getting at each other, and then they're trying to make Estelle jealous. So check out the play, folks. It's called No Exit. So yeah, I definitely love Sartre, but it's appropriate here. People who are telling me to stay focused, shut up. I'll talk about what I want. See, that's really the way I am. I brought it up. The reason we're on Sartre is because I brought up this idea, and Sartre has this, like, it's the reaction to realizing that you're not getting out alive, and the nausea, like this kind of like, oh, now what do I do kind of thing. And Pisces is that liberation, that you're that transcendent awareness that's actually fundamental to your nature. We only feel it like 1/12 of the time. Naturally, people who have a lot of planets there, they feel it a lot. They feel that transcendent nature quite a bit. It's a big part of their nature. Again, for example, someone like Einstein. That's why I used one of his quotes for this, because he's said many times that his science was actually much more about creativity than science. That it was much more about being creative than about being rational. And what he's talking about here was that, for example, he imagined these things first, and not imagine in some like, oh, just some dream. It means that he got the answer. Like, you can connect right to the source. See, this is what Pisces is. It's the source directly. It's not all the data of this world. It's that direct channel to wisdom itself. This is how the rishis, the Indian rishis, understood all this stuff. So when people, or if you ever think to yourself, where does all this knowledge come from? Isn't this just a bunch of stuff a bunch of people made up? Yes and no. A bunch of people, by the way, the people that made this stuff up lived at a time when we were in communion with all this energy, when people weren't as disconnected from cosmic wisdom as they are now. Now we're so disconnected from cosmic wisdom because we're just looking at screens and we're doing all of this other stuff. They weren't back then. They didn't have anything else to do but sit under the stars and feel what was real. They were much more connected to wisdom, true vidya back then. They were much more connected to it. And we started to get, plus they were in a more enlightened age, more enlightened yuga, right? And so this whole archetype of Pisces is that connection to that cosmic wisdom directly. And this is what Einstein was really dialed into. Again, you can see it in the chart, all these planets in Pisces, and these are what are called Raja Yogas, which means he was like a channel for all of this transcendent wisdom. But then what he did is he went back and had the math formulas, the math chops, to be able to then put it into a formula. But he knew the truth before he could prove it. So people that are great geniuses, they know the truth. It's called being a seer. It's being a seer. He was a seer. And he saw and knew these truths. And then he had to go back and prove it mathematically. But he didn't just he wasn't sitting there goofing around with math one day and then said, oh, E equals MC squared. No, E equals MC squared is the simplest formula in the world. It means energy equals mass times the speed of light squared. It's the simplest formula in the world. It came after he had the realization of time and space being the same thing, and energy being released through time and space and all the implications that came later. He knew the truth first. The truth came. The math formula just allowed him to prove it and capture it and codify it. That's why I'm talking about him, because that's what this energy is of this full moon. The sun in Pisces, because we're all a channel of divine wisdom, of divine truth. That's what we all are. Whether you know it or not, that's what you are. That's why I said the biggest mistake and the biggest problem is avidya. You don't know who you really are. And the Virgo is the details of this world, of this earth, which can often show up in things like math or just organizing our mundane life, but also even something like writing, like what Jean-Paul Sartre did in his Huis Clos, in his No Exit or Nausea. He was writing about existential crisis. I mean, his big book was called Being and Nothingness. He was an existentialist philosopher, which was basically taking very Eastern existential philosophy and man's disconnect from all the stuff we're talking about and analyzing it in great detail. Try reading Being and Nothingness once. It's about this thick, and it's very fascinating to read. The being in itself, the being for itself, it's really wild to read how he wrote it during World War II as well. But I'm talking about Sartre and Einstein because these are two people, very different approaches, very powerful Westerners who understood these Eastern concepts, but brought about these very Western structures to them. But again, the thing I love about Sartre is he was able to capture that same thing in these plays and able to dramatize it about how people and social situations also reflect these existential crises. And so, we find that interesting, but it's definitely interesting to me that this part of the zodiac where we have the bed where we're making love, creating children, and living this happy life, which is this Leo to Scorpio section of the zodiac, is opposite this section of the zodiac where we have the deathbed, the two front legs of the cot in Purva Bhadrapada and the back legs in Uttara Bhadrapada. So again, this is where the ego goes to die. The soul never dies. The ego goes to die in Pisces. And again, it feels like a death if you're attached to this false life. If you're attached to this body, it feels like death. If you're not, it feels like liberation. I'm blessed because I have my Jupiter there. So I have my Jupiter up there. So again, I don't mind letting go as much as others do. Although I let go, I feel it too. But again, these planets, when they're up here in Pisces, they're very acclimated to surrender and letting go. It's the hardest thing to do. So between these two poles of existence now is really how our energy is flowing. The sun in Pisces is trying to empower you to let go and to surrender. To let go and surrender. But try not to get into an existential crisis and just worrying about all the details of the world and trying to manage them. You'll wind up like Jean-Paul Sartre in Nausea, or one of the characters in No Exit, where they've gone to hell now and they're having to work through it for eternity. This duality between Pisces and Virgo is very rich. It's probably in many ways the most transcendent section of the zodiac. Well, this or the Gemini Sagittarius axis, both of them, because these are the signs ruled by Jupiter and Mercury, which are really the ones, at least, where everything transforms, where things transform. Mercury and Jupiter are the natural transformational energies. Mercury and Jupiter, they rule these dual signs, which are naturally changing. This is why people who are Gemini, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces are naturally dual nature. They're always changing and transitioning. That's their nature. Their nature is to, if they're not changing, then they feel like they're dying. They have to keep changing. They have to keep going. Gemini through ideas have to keep changing. Virgo through structures, also ideas, but mainly also, details. Sagittarius through actions and inspirations, and Pisces through feelings. It's where feelings are merging with that great beyond. It's very much a sign of being a mystic, very mystical. And the moon, Virgo is very practical. So again, you could even just attach the idea of what you might call practical mysticism, taking that mystical cosmic nature of who you really are and bringing it into your practices. This is why things like meditation and doing the practices are so profound and important, and what really needs to happen in our life. We have to take transformation out of the realm of things like just reading or something. And what we tend to do is just gather information, gather data, and think we're going to figure it out intellectually, which is the which is the Mercury part, when in fact, all the details and the intelligence needs to be connected to something cosmic and transcendent, and then practiced. And so this full moon in Virgo, again, I'm recording this on March 15th. We still have 2 days. It's now waxing toward that final full moon, that final Purnima, which is late on the 17th and into the early morning of the 18th. Is very much about doing those precise routines. Life is in the details. Everything is in the details. Virgo, very much about details, organizing things properly. Again, one of the things to understand, and it's mainly because we're so disorganized, it's not really hard. The truth is in the simplest things. You could watch animals do it. When someone says, look, just surrender, just let go. And you're like, but how? Literally, think of how crazy that is. Like if I'm holding up this cup and you said, okay, just let go, I would just open my hand. Okay, I know how to let go. Okay. The cup isn't me. I'm holding the cup with a hand. To let go, I just need to go like that. But if someone says, let go of your ego, you're like, but how do I do that? This is why sometimes people don't like when I say you're all ego. Okay, if you're not all ego, then let go of it now. Just drop it. Drop your ego right now. If you're saying you're not your ego, then you would be able to drop it right now and see your true nature, just like you'd be able to drop the cup, because you're not the cup. So if I say drop it, you drop it. You say drop the ego. Well, how do I do that? I need a really complicated spiritual practice in order to do the simplest thing possible, which is surrender. Let it go. It's not you. Drop it. Let it go. The reason we need a complicated, detailed thing is because we're complicated. Our ego has complicated things so much that we don't even remember who we are anymore. Lyrics to a song I'm trying to remember. I remember it goes, and I'm talking about this. I said, it's with a shovel, I dig a 40-hour hole. I thought I'd find it like the others there, but now I have no control of now my open door. I've forgotten what I'm looking for and lost in the candy store. I don't recognize it anymore. Like just lost. With a shovel and a hope of gold, I dig a 40-hour hole. I thought I'd find it like the others there, but now I have no control of now my open door. I've forgotten what I'm searching for. I'm lost in the candy store. I don't recognize it anymore. We're just lyrics to a song I wrote years ago. Like we don't. The thing is now the open door. Our open door is now. Now. Not past or future, now. But we are lost. We don't recognize it anymore. We don't even know what it is anymore because we're lost in the candy store. Chasing wealth, chasing all this other stuff. But it's now. And that's all meditation is. That's all dropping the ego is. You can drop it right now. And that's the only way you'll ever drop it is now. Now was then. Now it's now. Now. Now doesn't mean you on this video. It means now. But now that's past. No, so this is why all meditation is about bringing you into the present moment. It's the simplest thing ever. This is why they all focus on things like breath. Sit a certain way. Again, there's a way to sit so that the energy flows, particularly like a lotus posture or something where the spine is straight and whatnot, because we need, again, because this posture allows the energy to flow, skillfully up and down and through the nadis and through the chakras. And all of that is definitely true. But it's also secondary because if you can that's an aid because we're so far away. Because if you're sitting and you're bent over or you're this or that that bending over and that postural misalignment is also what keeps the thoughts going this way. For example, not breathing deep also makes your thoughts shallow. When you breathe shallow, your thoughts are shallow as well. So this is why when you learn proper meditation, you learn these things. You learn, at least, even if you're sitting in a chair, to have your spine be straight and to breathe deep, because again, it's impossible to have shallow mind and deep breath. They don't exist at the same time. You can't have angry, sort of psychotic thoughts and be breathing deeply. You can't. Your breath dictates your mind. So again, this is why we have these techniques. I'm talking about this because the technique part is the Virgo part. This detail, do this thing, that thing, this thing, that thing. Doesn't have to be a lot of details, but just do a few things the right way in the right order, and the meditation happens. So the real culmination of every spiritual liberation is a balancing of the Virgo Pisces axis. It's with the Virgo Pisces axis in harmony. It's introspective. Again, Gemini Sagittarius are also about transition and transformation, but they're masculine. They're more external. Pisces Virgo is internal. Again, it's really the most mystical, transcendent part of the zodiac in that context. Because first of all, you're going to have to close your eyes and withdraw from the world, not go out into it, but go inward. These are earth and water signs. Earth is about being stable and solid, still, and water is about sensitivity, connection to the heart, devotion. This is why when you have a guru, it makes it much easier, because we're very emotional. What do we do with those emotions? Well, when we connect it to a being who we love more than we love that crazy ego of ours, it's a real help. So but Pisces can just be emotional, and we can be devoted to anything. We can be devoted to many things that aren't worthy, and that's what we are as well. People have a lot of planets in Pisces. They're also very devotional, but they can be devoted to anything. Doesn't mean it's actually wisdom. So, but this devotional tendency with the sun in Pisces mixed with the practical, momentary skill of Virgo, because Virgo is great for bringing things into the moment and extrapolating the magic out of the form, turning the power of Leo into a form that we love and enjoy and then want to share in Libra. That's really what Virgo it is. It's between Leo and Libra, between my power and the things I have, and Libra, the people I want to share them with, is Virgo. The magic to take the power and turn it into something real and beautiful. And the highest sense isn't all the people, it's you. Is the power you have and the beauty of life itself. And in between that is Virgo, which is all of that magic, the magic in the details, right? But again, if those details are disconnected from a higher purpose, then you're just worrying about all these things you can't control. That's the problem of Virgo. Oh, I'll control it all. I'll figure this out. I'll figure this out. And we're very spun out on Mercury details in this world now. With the internet and all this, I'm doing my research, and the research is disconnected from anything spiritual or dharmic, or even our own mental state and emotional state. So these are very important things to ponder on this full moon. And again, the full moon isn't just a day, okay? It's been building, but the next couple of days we'll see these things as well. And then it'll be really a cycle for the next couple of weeks of really trying to surrender and let go, because that full moon is the beginning of a process of letting go, of surrendering. So I want to also, before we leave, I want to put this link again. I really recommend people go and get this free class on the nodes in Libra. Free web class, Rahu and Aries, Ketu and Libra for your sign. Also, again, the nodes in the Libra Aries axis future predictions. This is the manual from that free class. Again, I give a great overview of the lunar nodes themselves, the story of the Samudra Manthan, where Rahu and Ketu, the lunar nodes, were birthed. Then I talk about how Rahu would show up in Aries, Ketu in Libra. And again, really great case studies here of the last time that happened and the relevance of the times we're living in now, where we had the largest NATO expansion, the largest expansion of the EU back then. We also had a major revolution in Ukraine at that time called the Orange Revolution, actually very much a precursor of the things we're seeing now 18 years ago. This is real stuff. Of course, all this sadness that we're seeing in Ukraine now, the last time Rahu and Ketu went through here, we had the same kind of thing in Ukraine. And you can also get a mini course. It's actually only $4.97, not $9.97, but that's all up to you later if you want to do that. So again, I also hope that people share this, like and subscribe to the channel if it's YouTube or Facebook or wherever you're seeing it, Twitter or whatever you're doing, Instagram or whatever. And so again, this will be a great time for, especially, I mean, it's really a great time for your spiritual practices, for learning how, you know, how to organize not just your outer life, but your state of mind and your consciousness. And it's a very devotional time. Again, Virgo is opposite Pisces. Virgo is very devotional, even just the sign. People who have a Virgo ascendant are often very devotional because Pisces is in the 7th house. And they're very, but they can, you know, again, get kind of stuck at times and lost in all the forms of things, but very, you know, and kind of get bogged down in worry, perfectionism. Again, all of these things that are just nothing but a misaligned sense of self. Instead of, again, all the perfectionism and all of the, you know, either perfectionism of yourself or some other area of life where you think you're going to conquer all the details by stressing and worrying, again, needs to be aligned with that bigger purpose where you organize the only thing you can organize, which is the moment, which is the things around you, so that you're not bogged down in clutter, so that your energy is not stuck. And in the highest sense, that really allows you to organize like a spiritual practice where, again, you bring things into their simplest form. Virgo loves simplicity, but can often get bogged down with too much complexity. Big key word for Virgo, simplicity, right? And bring it into that deeply reverent and devotional space, and then connect with your beloved deity or guru and let go, relax, and laugh at it all. It's ruled by Mercury, and Mercury loves nothing more than, in the mundane sense, to have a good laugh at it all. You saw Einstein, as smart as he was always sticking his tongue out, making a dumb face. So anyway, folks, I hope this was helpful and that you enjoyed this. Again, share it with others if you think they'll benefit, and we'll talk soon.